The explosion came without warning, sending chunks of metal spinning through the darkness of space. Captain Zara felt her ship shudder and groan as debris tore through the hull like paper. The Star Whisper had been the pride of the Kirathi fleet, but now it tumbled helplessly through the void. Zara gripped her command chair as the artificial gravity flickered and failed. Her purple-scaled skin reflected the emergency lights that bathed the bridge in red. She had 6 eyes arranged in pairs, and all of them focused on the damage report scrolling across her screen. The situation was worse than she feared. "Captain, we have lost main engines and backup power is failing." Her second-in-command. Lyra reported the Valoran officer used all 4 of her arms to work multiple control panels at once, trying desperately to reroute power to critical systems. "How many casualties?" Zara asked, though she dreaded the answer. 3 dead in the engine room. 7 injured throughout the ship. The medical bay is operational, but we have bigger problems. Lyra paused, her silver skin turning pale. "Life support is damaged. We have maybe 15 hours of air left for 30 crew members." Zara stood up, her tall frame towering over most of her bridge crew. The Kirathi were known as warriors among the stars, but all their military training meant nothing against the cold equations of survival. Their weapons could not fight the vacuum of space. Their advanced shields had not protected them from simple bad luck. "Send out a distress signal on all frequencies," Zara commanded. "Make sure it reaches the Alliance channels. Someone will come for us," the communications officer, a young Terax named Crix, worked his station with desperate efficiency. His tentacle, like appendages, danced across the controls, sending their plea for help into the darkness. But Zara could see the doubt in his 3 eyes. They were in dead space between star systems far from the usual trade routes. Hours passed with agonizing slowness. The crew worked to seal hull breaches and conserve power, but every repair seemed to reveal 2 new problems. The Star Whisper had been built for battle, not for survival in these conditions. Its powerful weapon systems were useless now. Just dead, weight draining what little power remained. Zara moved through her ship, checking on each crew member. She found her chief engineer, Vorak, trapped under a fallen beam. The massive Gorvak had strength 10 times that of most species, but even he could not lift the metal pressing down on his legs. "Leave me, Captain," Vorak growled through his tusks. "Save the power for the others." Zara knelt beside him, and together with 3 other crew members, they managed to free him. "No one gets left behind," she said, firmly. That is not the Kirathi way, but privately she wondered what good their honor would do them when the air ran out. The mess hall had become a makeshift medical center. Dr. Yessa, a Marlian with translucent skin that showed her inner organs, moved between the injured with practiced grace. Her species could see illness and injury just by looking through flesh and bone. But she could not cure the lack of oxygen that would soon kill them all. Back on the bridge, 12 hours had passed with no response to their distress calls. The crew had grown quiet, speaking in whispers to conserve air. Some had begun recording final messages for their families, though they knew the chances of those messages ever being delivered were slim. "Captain, I am detecting a ship." Crix suddenly announced, his voice cracking with excitement. Zara rushed to his station, examining the sensor data. Her hearts, both of them, began to race. "Is it an Alliance rescue vessel?" Crix hesitated. "No, Captain, it appears to be a human cargo ship." "Just one small vessel?" The bridge fell into disappointed silence. Humans were the newest addition to galactic civilization, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 50 years ago. Their technology was primitive, compared to even the smallest Alliance races. They still used chemical rockets for maneuvering, and their ships were held together with welding and hope. "The human vessel is changing course," Crix reported with confusion. "They are heading directly for us at maximum burn." That made no sense to Zara. A single human ship could not possibly help them. Humans were known for being reckless, but this was suicide. The cargo vessel was a fraction of the Star Whisper size. Even if they transferred all their air supplies, it would only buy them another hour or 2. "Warn them off," Zara ordered. "Tell them we appreciate the gesture, but they cannot help us. They should save themselves. The human is responding." Crix touched his earpiece. Audio only. The bridge speakers crackled to life, and a young female voice filled the air. Hey there, this is Captain Katie Morgan of the Lucky Break. Heard you folks were having a bad day. Zara activated her microphone. Human Captain, this is Commander Zara of the Kyrathi Empire. We are grateful for your concern, but your ship is too small to render assistance. Please do not risk yourself for nothing. There was a pause. Then Katie laughed. Well, that is where you are wrong, Commander. See, I got this old bird loaded with some pretty, interesting salvage equipment. And I have been in worse spots than this, trust me, Captain Morgan. We have 30 souls aboard, and less than 3 hours of air remaining. Zara tried to keep the desperation out of her voice. We need a full rescue fleet. Not one cargo ship. I hear you, Commander. But I am what you got right now, Katie replied. So you can either let me help, or you can spend your last 3 hours arguing with me. Your choice. Zara looked around her bridge at her dying crew. She saw hope flickering in their eyes for the first time in hours. Against her better judgment, she found herself saying, "What do you propose?" Captain Morgan. First things. First, call me Katie. And second, I need you to extend your dorsal docking port and disable your automatic defense systems. I know that goes against protocol, but I promise I am not here to steal your fancy alien tech. Why would you risk your life for strangers? Zara asked, genuinely puzzled. You do not even know us. Katie was quiet for a moment, then said, because 40 years ago my grandmother was on a colony ship that lost power near Jupiter. Everyone said it was too dangerous to attempt a rescue, but a crazy pilot named Chen decided to try anyway. He saved 200 people that day, including my grandmother. So I guess you could say I am paying it forward. Zara felt something she had not experienced in hours, hope mixed with shame. She had dismissed humans as primitive and worthless, but this one was racing to save them without hesitation. We will prepare the docking port. Zara said, stand by for approach vectors. Roger that, Commander. Katie responded. And hey, try to keep everyone calm. I know this looks bad, but I have pulled off crazier stunts than this. Just ask anyone at the Mars orbital yards. They still tell stories about the time I surfed a solar flare. Despite everything, Zara found herself almost smiling. The human was either insane or brilliant, and at this point she would take either over certain death. The next morning, Katie began jettisoning everything from her ship that was not bolted down crates of cargo, floated away into space along with furniture, spare parts, and most of her food supplies. The crew of the Star Whisper watched in amazement, as the human literally threw away her livelihood to save them. That cargo was probably worth thousands of credits. Crix observed his tentacles pressed against the viewport more, like tens of thousands. Vorak corrected the engineer had managed to get some secondary systems working, but he still watched Katie with disbelief. No rational being would sacrifice so much for strangers. But Katie seemed almost cheerful as she worked, singing something she called rock music over the comm system. The songs were loud and chaotic, but somehow fitting for the situation. Several of the younger crew members found themselves tapping along to the rhythm. Hey, Commander, Katie called out between songs. I need to do another spacewalk to adjust the solar collectors. The star we are passing is putting out some good radiation, and I want to catch as much as possible. Negative, Katie. Zara replied firmly. You have been out there 3 times already in that ancient suit. You need to rest. Katie laughed. Rest is for people who are not trying to save 30 aliens from suffocating. Besides, my suit might be old, but she is reliable. Like me. Before Zara could protest further, Katie was already suiting up again. This time, Zara ordered the external cameras to track the human closely. She wanted to be ready if something went wrong. Katie moved across the connected ships like she had been doing it her whole life. She adjusted each solar collector with practiced movements, maximizing their exposure to the distant star, but then something went wrong. One of the cables suddenly snapped under the strain, whipping through space like a deadly snake. It struck Katie hard, sending her spinning away from both ships. Her magnetic boots lost contact, and she tumbled into the void. Bridge of the Star Whisper erupted in panic. Lyra immediately began calculating trajectories while Crix tried to establish communication with Katie. But the human was unconscious, or at least not responding. Launch the rescue pods, Zara commanded Captain. The pods are damaged from the initial explosion, Lyra reported. They would not survive. Launch Zara felt helpless rage building inside her. This human had sacrificed everything for them, and now they could only watch her drift away to die. But then, Vorak spoke up from the engineering station. I can go after her, he said simply. Your legs are still injured. Zara protested. You can barely walk. The massive Gorvak stood up, ignoring the obvious pain. I am the only one strong enough to bring her back. Give me a suit and a tether. Within minutes, Vorak was suited up in their largest pressure suit, which was still almost too small for his frame. They attached the longest tether they could find and opened the airlock. The Gorvak pushed off with his powerful arms, launching himself toward Katie's tumbling form. The entire crew held their breath as Vorak flew through space. He had one chance to grab her. If he missed, they would both be lost forever. But the engineer's calculations were perfect. He caught Katie in his massive arms and used his suit's thrusters to slow their momentum. Pull us in, Vorak commanded over the comm. The crew worked together, hauling both of them back to safety. When they got Katie inside, they discovered her suit had been punctured by the cable. The human was barely breathing, her skin pale and cold. Dr. Yessa immediately went to work, using her unique abilities to see the internal damage. 3 broken ribs, minor internal bleeding, and severe hypothermia. Yessa reported. But she will live if we can keep her warm. They carried Katie to the medical bay and wrapped her in every blanket they could find. Zara stayed by her side as the human slowly regained consciousness. Katie's eyes fluttered open and she looked around in confusion. Did I miss something? She asked weakly. You almost died, Zara said, trying to keep her voice steady. That cable could have killed you. Katie tried to laugh but winced in pain. Could have, but did not. That is what matters. She looked around, at the alien faces surrounding her. You guys saved me. No, Vorak rumbled from where he stood despite his injured legs. You saved us first. Katie seemed embarrassed by the attention. Can someone help me up? I need to check the power systems. Absolutely not. Dr. Yessa pushed her back down with gentle but firm hands. You are staying in this bed for at least 12 hours. But the power transfer, Katie protested. I will monitor it, Lyra said, holding up a data pad. I have been watching you work, and I think I understand the system. Katie looked skeptical but then smiled. Okay, but if anything looks weird, you wake me up immediately. Those modifications are held together with prayer and electrical tape A's. Katie rested. The crew of the Star Whisper took turns, watching over her and monitoring the power transfer. They had never worked so hard to keep someone else's ship running, but somehow it felt right. This human had shown them something they had forgotten in all their advanced civilization sometimes. The most powerful technology was simple determination. On the 4th day, they encountered an unexpected problem. A group of raiders appeared on their sensors. 3 ships moving in formation, clearly intending to take advantage of 2 damaged vessels. This is bad, Zara muttered, studying the approaching ships. They are Vakari pirates. They prey on disabled ships. Katie, who was supposed to be resting, had somehow made it to the bridge despite doctor's orders. She leaned heavily on a makeshift crutch, but her eyes were sharp. How long until they reach us? Katie asked. 2 hours, maybe less. Crix replied, his tentacles trembling. The Vakari were known for taking no prisoners. Katie nodded and started moving toward the airlock. I need to get back to my ship. You are in no condition to fly. Zara protested. Katie grinned, though pain was obvious on her face. Good thing flying is mostly sitting down. Help me across and I will handle this. Zara wanted to argue, but something in Katie's eyes stopped her. The human had a plan, and at this point Zara trusted her completely. They helped Katie back to the Lucky Break, where she immediately went to work on her communications system. Hey there, Katie broadcast to the approaching pirates. This is Captain Morgan of the Lucky Break. I am currently providing life support to a Karathi military vessel. Just thought you should know. The pirates responded with harsh laughter. Human, your pathetic ship is no threat to us. Surrender and we might let some of you live. Katie's grin widened. Oh, I am not threatening you. I am just informing you that this Karathi ship is carrying experimental weapons technology That is why I am keeping them alive. I plan to sell the tech to the highest bidder. There was silence from the pirates. Then did you say experimental weapons? Katie winked at Zara through the video link. Yeah, Class 7 antimatter torpedoes. Real nasty stuff, but worth a fortune to the right buyer. Tell you what, you help us get to the station, and I will cut you in for 20%. The pirates discussed among themselves for several minutes while Katie waited patiently. She had positioned herself so they could not see her injuries or the true state of her ship. 30%. The pirate leader finally said. 25, and you provide escort the whole way, Katie countered. Deal. The pirate agreed. But if you are lying human, we will skin you alive. Oh, I never lie about money, Katie said cheerfully. For the next 4 days, the pirates escorted them toward the station. They had no idea the Star Whisper carried no weapons at all, let alone experimental ones. Katie had bluffed with nothing but confidence and the pirates' own greed as they finally approached Babylon Station. Katie opened a private channel to Zara when, "We dock, those pirates are going to figure out I lied. You should probably have security ready." Zara was already making arrangements. The station authorities will be waiting. But Katie, how did you know they would believe you? Katie shrugged. Even though it clearly hurt her ribs, pirates are the same everywhere, human or alien. They always think everyone else is as greedy as they are. The lucky break appeared on their screens 2 hours later, and Zara could hardly believe what she was seeing. The human ship looked like it had been assembled from spare parts and good intentions. Patches of different colored metal covered its hull, and what appeared to be duct tape held some of the external panels in place. But it was the modifications that caught her attention. Massive cables hung from the cargo bay, and strange devices were welded to the hull in seemingly random patterns. The ship looked less like a cargo vessel and more like a flying junkyard. Lyra studied the sensor readings with all 4 arms, gesturing at different displays. Captain, those cables appear to be military-grade power conduits, but they have been modified, with components I do not recognize. The communication system buzzed and Katie appeared on their main screen for the first time. She was younger than Zara expected, with short brown hair tied back in a messy ponytail. Her green eyes sparkled with intelligence and mischief. She wore a stained jumpsuit that had seen better days. "All right, folks, here is the plan," Katie said while chewing on what looked like a protein bar. "I am going to create an energy bridge between our ships using these modified tethers, picked them up from a decommissioned station near Pluto. They should let me share my life support and power systems with you." "That is impossible." Vorak protested from the engineering station where he worked despite his injured legs. "The power requirements alone would burn out your systems in minutes." Katie grinned and took another bite of her protein bar. "That is why I brought these babies." She pointed to the strange devices on her hull. "Solar collectors from the Mercury mining operation. But I tweaked them a bit. They will help offset the power drain." Zara exchanged glances with her officers. Solar collectors were ancient technology by galactic standards. Most species had abandoned them centuries ago for more efficient power sources. But humans still used them, probably because they could not afford better. "Captain Morgan," Katie, Zara said carefully, "this is very dangerous. If something goes wrong, both our ships could be destroyed." "Yeah, well, dying of suffocation is not exactly safe either." Katie stood up and started putting on what looked like a very old pressure suit. "So what do you say? Want to try something crazy?" Before Zara could respond, Katie had already started the docking procedure. The human moved with surprising skill, maneuvering her bulky ship with the grace of a dancer. The lucky break lined up perfectly with their docking port on the first try. The entire crew of the Star Whisper held their breath as the 2 ships connected. The docking clamps engaged with a solid thunk that echoed through both vessels. Then Katie began the real work. Through the viewports, they watched as the human captain exited her ship and began manually connecting the massive cables to their hull. She moved through space with nothing but magnetic boots and that ancient pressure suit that looked like it belonged in a museum. "This is insane," Lyra whispered. "She is going to get herself killed." But Katie worked with confident efficiency, connecting cable after cable and adjusting the solar collectors to catch the distant light of nearby stars. She even seemed to be humming to herself, though the vacuum of space swallowed any sound. After an hour of work, Katie returned to her ship covered in frost and breathing heavily. "Okay," she said over the comm. "Give me a minute to catch my breath and we will fire this thing up." Zara watched the human on the screen as she peeled off her helmet, revealing sweat-soaked hair. Katie's hands were shaking from the cold, but she immediately went to her control panel and began the startup sequence power transfer, initiating in 3, 2, 1. Katie announced. The lights on the Star Whisper suddenly grew brighter as energy flowed through the cables. The life support systems hummed back to life, and fresh air began flowing through the vents. The crew cheered as their instruments showed the oxygen levels rising. "It is working," Crix exclaimed, his tentacles waving in excitement. The human did it, but Zara noticed something on her displays. The power drain on the Lucky break was enormous. Katie's ship was giving everything it had to keep them alive. Warning lights flashed across the human's control panel. "Katie, you are redlining your system," Zara warned. "You need to reduce the transfer rate." "Nah, we are good," Katie replied, but Zara could see her turning off non-essential systems. The temperature in the Lucky break was dropping rapidly as Katie diverted power from heating to life support. The next several hours were tense as both ships limped through space. Katie had calculated that at their current speed they could reach the nearest station in 8 days, but that meant maintaining the power transfer the entire time, slowly draining her ship to keep theirs alive. As night cycle began on the Star Whisper, Zara found herself unable to rest. She went to the bridge and opened a private channel to Katie. The human was still at her controls, wrapped in what looked like 3 blankets. "You should get some sleep," Zara said. Katie looked up and smiled, though. Her lips were turning blue from the cold. "Sleep is overrated. Besides, someone needs to monitor these systems." Zara studied the human with new respect. "Why are you really doing this?" "You could have just noted our position and sent for help." Katie was quiet for a moment, then pulled up an old photograph on her screen. It showed a group of humans standing in front of a primitive spacecraft. "My great-grandfather was on the first Mars colony," she said quietly. "When their habitat failed, everyone thought they were done for. But people came together, strangers risking everything to save them. That is what humans do. We help each other even when it seems impossible. But we are not humans," Zara pointed out. "We are aliens to you." Katie laughed. "So what you are people in trouble and I can help. That is all that matters." She adjusted her blankets and checked her readings. "Besides, you guys seem pretty cool. I mean, you have purple scales and multiple arms. That is awesome, despite the dire situation." Zara found herself laughing. It was such a simple way of looking at things, but perhaps that was what made humans special. They did not overthink. They just acted. "Tell me about Earth," Zara said, settling into her captain's chair. "I have never been there." Katie's eyes lit up. "Oh man, where do I even start?" "Okay, so there is this place called Hawaii where the water is so blue it looks fake, and the food there is amazing. They have this thing called pizza, which is basically flat bread with cheese and toppings, but it is the best thing ever invented." For the next hour, Katie told stories about Earth, describing mountains that touched the clouds and deserts that stretched forever. She talked about cities with millions of humans living together and small towns, where everyone knew each other. She described music festivals and sporting events and something called movies that sounded like recorded theatrical performances. The more Katie talked, the more Zara realized how wrong the galaxy had been about humans. They were not primitive, they were just different. They found joy in simple things and beauty in chaos. They helped strangers not for profit or politics, but because it was right. "Captain, we have a problem." Lyra suddenly interrupted, approaching with a datapad. "The power drain is worse than calculated. At this rate, the Lucky break will be completely dead in 6 days. We will still be 2 days from the station." Zara felt her heart sink. They had come so far only to face failure again. Katie must have heard because she spoke up over the comm. "Hey, I heard that, Don. Not worry, I have got another idea, but you are probably not going to like it at this point." Zara was willing to try anything. "What do you have in mind?" Katie grinned, though her exhaustion was obvious. We are going to make my ship lighter by dumping everything we do not absolutely need. Cargo, furniture, food supplies, everything goes. That should reduce the power requirements and buy us the extra time. You cannot dump your food supplies, Zara protested. You will starve. Katie shrugged. I can go a week without eating. Done it before during the Saturn run of 2289 when my food processor broke. Trust me, I have got plenty of fat reserves to burn through. That was a lie, and Zara knew it. Katie was thin and had probably been rationing her food already. But the human had made up her mind, and Zara had learned that arguing with a determined human was pointless. Babylon Station grew larger on their screens, a massive structure spinning slowly in space. It was a neutral ground where all species could trade and refuel. The sight of it made the entire crew of the Star Whisper relax for the first time in 8 days. They had actually made it. The pirates hung back as they approached the station, clearly expecting their payment. Katie maintained the act right until the end, even sending them fake technical specifications that looked real enough to buy them. Time docking in 5 minutes, Katie announced, though her voice was weaker than before. The power drain had taken everything from her ship, and the lucky break was running on fumes. As they entered the station's controlled space, several security vessels surrounded the pirates. The Vakari realized they had been tricked and tried to flee, but it was too late. Babylon Station did not tolerate piracy in their space. The pirates sent one last angry message to Katie before being arrested. You deceived us, human. You will pay for this. Katie just smiled and gave them a small wave from her cockpit. Sorry, boys, but you should really check your cargo before making deals. She cut the communication and focused on docking. The lucky break barely made it to the docking port. The ship's engines died completely just as the magnetic clamps engaged. Katie's life support failed seconds later, but by then the station systems had taken over. Both ships were safe. Medical teams rushed aboard both vessels, Dr. Yessa briefed them on Katie's injuries while making sure the human received immediate care. They wanted to take Katie to the medical center, but she insisted on staying until every member of the Star Whisper's crew was safely on the station. Zara found Katie sitting on the deck of the docking bay, too exhausted to stand. The human was wrapped in a thermal blanket and holding a cup of something hot that the station staff had brought her. You did it, Zara said, sitting down beside her. You saved. Katie shook her head. We did it. Your engineer saved me when I was floating in space. Your doctor kept me alive. Your whole crew worked together to make this happen. I just had the right junk attached to my ship. Zara looked through the viewport at the lucky break. The ship was in terrible condition with burn marks and damage across its entire hull. It would take thousands of credits to repair if it could be repaired. At all. Katie followed her gaze and sighed. Yeah, she is pretty beat up. Insurance is not going to cover this since I technically violated about 50 safety protocols. Guess I will be working station jobs for a while to pay for repairs. That is unacceptable. Zara stood up and helped Katie to her feet. Come with me. They made their way through the station to the communication center, where Zara placed a priority call to the Karathi High Command. Her superiors appeared on the screen, their purple scales gleaming in the formal lighting of their offices. Commander Zara, they said, in unison as was their custom. We received your emergency beacon. What is your status? Zara straightened her uniform and gave her report. She told them everything from the asteroid impact to Katie's rescue. She emphasized how the human had sacrificed her cargo, her ship's functionality, and nearly her life to save them. The High Command listened in silence, their 6 eyes each focused intently on the screen. When Zara finished, they turned to look at Katie, who was trying to stay upright despite her exhaustion. Human Katie Morgan, one of them, spoke directly to her. The Kyrathi Empire owes you a debt that cannot be measured. You saved 30 of our citizens, including one of our finest commanders. How can we repay you? Katie seemed surprised by the question. I did not do it for payment, I just wanted to help. The High Command exchanged glances, clearly not used to such an answer. Nevertheless, honor demands we respond in kind. Commander Zara. What do you recommend? Zara did not hesitate. Full repairs, for the lucky break, replacement of all lost cargo. and a reward sufficient to ensure Captain Morgan never has to risk her life for money again. The High Command agreed immediately. It will be done. They turned back to Katie. Furthermore, you are hereby granted honorary citizenship in the Karathi Empire with all the privileges that entails. You will always be welcome in our space. Katie's eyes widened. Holy crap, I mean thank you, that is incredibly generous. The communication ended and Katie slumped. Against the wall, I cannot believe that just happened. You earned it, Zara said. Simply accepting our thanks would have been enough, but you deserve so much more. Over the next few days, the station became a hub of activity. The Lucky Break was moved to the repair bay where Karathi engineers worked alongside human mechanics to not just fix but upgrade the ship. They installed new engines, better life support, and actual modern solar collectors that worked efficiently. Katie tried to help with the repairs, but Dr. Yessa and the station medical staff forced her to rest. Her ribs needed time to heal, and she was severely malnourished from giving away her food supplies. The crew of the Star Whisper took turns visiting her, bringing food from their various worlds for her to try. This is called Gresh, Lyra explained, offering a blue fruit that sparkled slightly. It grows on my home world, and is considered a delicacy. Katie bit into it and her eyes went wide. This tastes like cotton candy mixed with strawberries. Can I get more of these? Vorak brought her a traditional Gorvak strength drink that tasted terrible, but apparently promoted healing. Crix shared music from his world, which consisted of harmonious tentacle vibrations that were strangely soothing. Even the junior crew members came by to thank her personally. On the 5th day at the station, Zara found Katie in the observation lounge staring out at the stars. The human looked better with color back in her skin and her injuries healing. Thinking about heading out? Zara asked, joining her at the window. Katie nodded. My ship is almost ready and I have got contracts to fulfill. Plus all this attention is getting a bit overwhelming. I am just a cargo hauler. Not a hero, Zara disagreed, but understood. The feeling you could stay with us. The Karathi fleet could use someone with your skills. Katie smiled but shook her head. Thanks. But I belong out there. She gestured at the stars. Flying alone, making deliveries, getting into trouble. It is what I do before. You leave, I have something for you. Zara pulled out a small device. This is a Karathi emergency beacon. If you ever need help anywhere in the galaxy, activate it and we will come. Katie took the device carefully, understanding the significance of the gift. I do not know what to say. Say you will be careful, Zara replied. The galaxy needs more humans like you. Katie laughed. I am one of a kind, Commander. But honestly, most humans would have done the same thing. We are all a little crazy when it comes to helping people. The next morning, the Lucky Break was ready to depart. It looked better than new with its fresh hull plating and upgraded systems. The crew of the Star Whisper gathered to see Katie off, each one performing their species' traditional farewell. Katie stood at the airlock, clearly emotional. You guys take care of yourselves and try not to fly into any more asteroids. We will be more careful, Zara promised. And Katie, thank you for everything. Katie grinned and gave a very human thumbs up gesture. Anytime, Commander, anytime, as the Lucky Break departed. The entire docking bay erupted in cheers from multiple species who had heard the story. Even the station workers stopped to wave goodbye. The small human ship flew away with confidence, its engines humming smoothly. Lyra stood beside Zara, watching the ship disappear into space. Do you think we will see her again? Zara smiled, knowing the answer with certainty. This is a big galaxy, but somehow I think our paths will cross again. 6 months passed before Zara heard the name Katie Morgan again. She was attending a diplomatic conference on the planet Zirion when an emergency broadcast interrupted the proceedings. A colony ship carrying over 3,000 refugees from a dying world had suffered complete engine failure in hostile space. They were drifting toward a black hole with no way to escape. The assembled diplomats and military officers began discussing the logistics of mounting a rescue. But everyone knew the truth. It would take too long to mobilize a fleet. The refugees would be dead before help arrived. Then a familiar voice crackled over the emergency channel. This is Captain Katie Morgan of the Lucky Break. I am 8 hours out from the colony. ship and moving to intercept Zara's hearts jumped as she recognized the human's voice. She pushed through the crowd to the communication station. Katie, what are you doing in that sector? That is Vorthan territory. Hey, Commander. Fancy hearing from you, Katie replied, sounding cheerful. Despite the situation, I was making a delivery nearby when I heard the distress call. Could not exactly ignore it, could I? The Vorthan were hostile to outsiders, and their space was filled with gravity anomalies that made navigation dangerous. Even military ships avoided that region. But Katie was already heading straight into it. The conference room erupted in discussion as various species offered support, but everyone was too far away to help. Zara watched the tracking screen as the single dot representing Katie's ship moved toward the massive colony vessel Katie. You cannot tow a colony ship, Zara said, trying to keep her voice calm. It is 50 times the size of your vessel. Not planning to tow it. Katie responded, I have got a different idea. Remember those solar collectors you guys upgraded? Well, I have been tinkering with them over the next several hours. Katie explained her plan while flying through increasingly dangerous space. She had modified the collectors to work in reverse. Instead of gathering energy, they could project it. She planned to create an energy field that would push against the colony ship just enough to alter its trajectory away from the black hole. That is insane, a Terrax, scientist said after hearing the plan. The power requirements alone would destroy your ship. Probably, Katie agreed cheerfully. But I have got 3,000 people counting on me. So we are going to try it anyway. Zara wanted to order Katie to stop, to think of another way, but she knew the human would not listen. This was who Katie was, someone who helped regardless of the cost. The conference watched in tense silence as Katie reached the colony ship. The refugees were a mix of species fleeing, their dying planet including families with children. Their life support was failing and panic was setting in. Katie's voice came over their speakers, calm and reassuring. Hey folks, this is Captain Morgan. I know things look bad right now, but I need you all to move to the rear sections of your ship. We are going to give you a little push. The colony ship's captain, an elderly Marleyan, responded with desperation. Human, our situation is hopeless. We are already caught in the black hole's gravity. Well, Katie laughed, never tell a human something is hopeless. We literally put people on our moon using computers less powerful than the phone in my pocket. Now everybody move to the back of the ship. This is going to get bumpy. Zara watched as Katie positioned the lucky break between the colony ship and the black hole. The modified solar collectors began to glow as they charged up, drawing every bit of power from Katie's upgraded systems. The energy discharge was visible even from the long-range sensors. A brilliant blue field expanded from the lucky break, pushing against the colony ship. The massive vessel began to move slowly at first, then faster as Katie increased the output. Warning lights flashed across Katie's console as her ship's systems overloaded. But she kept pushing, maintaining the field even as components began to fail. The colony ship's trajectory shifted degree by degree away from the point of no return. She is doing it, someone whispered in amazement. The human is actually doing it. But Zara could see what others could not. The lucky break was tearing itself apart. The energy output was too much, even for the upgraded systems. Pieces of Katie's ship began to break off, consumed by the massive forces she was generating. Katie, you need to stop, Zara commanded. Your ship is breaking apart. Almost there, Katie replied through gritted teeth. Just a few more seconds. The colony ship finally broke free of the black hole's grip, sailing into safe space. But the lucky break was dying. Its engines exploded and the hull began to crack. Katie had saved 3,000 lives, but at the cost of her own ship. The lucky break is going down, Crix reported from his station at the conference. She is being pulled into the black hole. The room fell silent as they watched the small human ship tumble toward the event horizon. Katie's communication system failed, and the tracking signal disappeared. Everyone knew what that meant. No one survived a black hole. But then something extraordinary happened. Ships began appearing on the sensors. Dozens of them from every species racing toward the last known position of the lucky break. The story of Katie Morgan had spread throughout the galaxy, and now everyone wanted to help save the human, who saved others. A Vakari ship, ironically crewed by some of the same pirates Katie had tricked months ago, was the first to arrive. They used magnetic grapples to catch the Lucky Break's wreckage just before it passed the point of no return, a Terrax. Medical vessel immediately docked to search for Katie. She is alive, came the report, barely but alive. The conference room erupted in cheers as ships from every major civilization worked together to save one human cargo pilot. They towed the destroyed Lucky Break to safety. While medical teams fought to keep Katie stable, Zara took the fastest ship available and arrived at the rescue site within hours. She found Katie in the medical bay of a Gorvac cruiser surrounded by doctors from multiple species. The human was unconscious but breathing. She really needs to stop doing this, Dr. Yessa said, who had somehow also managed to arrive. Her body cannot take much more heroic sacrifice. Katie woke up 3 days later in the best medical facility on Xerion Prime. Her first words were, "Did everyone make it out?" "Okay." Zara could not help but laugh even as tears formed in her eyes. "You saved 3,000 people, Katie. Your ship is completely destroyed, but you saved them all." Katie tried to sit up, but winced. "Oh man, the Lucky Break is gone. That is going to be expensive." The Karathi High Command appeared on a screen near her bed. "Captain Morgan, once again you have shown courage beyond measure. The colony you saved contained many Karathi citizens. We will replace your ship." Actually, a Terrax diplomat interrupted. "We would like to provide the new ship as thanks for saving our people." The Gorvac representative rumbled. "In fact, 17 different species have offered to contribute to building you a new vessel." Katie looked overwhelmed. "Guys, that is really not necessary." A human representative finally spoke up. "Captain Morgan, you have become something of a legend. Every species has stories of humans helping in crisis, but you have shown the entire galaxy what humanity represents. We are building you a ship together, all of us, over the next month." While Katie recovered, engineers from every major civilization worked on her new ship. They combined the best technology from each species, Karathi, shields, Terrax navigation systems, Gorvac engines, Marlian medical bays, and human creativity holding it all together. When they unveiled the ship, Katie actually cried. It was beautiful, and somehow still looked like the Lucky Break with its distinctive patchwork hull. But now those patches were intentional, each representing a different species that had contributed. They had even painted the name on the side, Lucky Break 2, with Electric Boogaloo written underneath in smaller letters. Katie had to explain that it was a human joke, but everyone agreed to keep it. The launch ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Katie stood before thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds, all gathered to honor her. She looked uncomfortable in the formal clothes they had given her, clearly preferring her old jumpsuit. "I am not good at speeches," Katie began, "so I will keep this short. Everyone keeps calling me a hero, but I do not see it that way. Where I come from, helping people is just what you do. Does not matter if they look different or come from different worlds, people are people." She paused and looked out at the crowd. "And now I have seen that this is not just a human thing. Every species here has shown the same courage and compassion. We are all in this together, floating through space on our various rocks and ships. The least we can do is help each other when things get tough." The crowd erupted in applause as Katie walked toward her new ship. Zara met her at the airlock. "Try to be more careful this time," Zara said. Katie grinned. "No promises, Commander. You know me. I cannot resist a good rescue." As the Lucky Break 2 launched into space with an escort of ships from every major civilization, Katie sent one final message over the open channels. "If anyone out there needs help, just call. I will be listening, and somewhere in the vast darkness of space on a dozen different worlds, in 100 different languages, that message was received and understood. The humans were listening, and they would always come to help. The galaxy had learned something important about the newest species to join them. Humans might not have the best technology or the strongest ships, but they had something more powerful than any weapon they had. The willingness to risk everything for strangers, and that made them the most dangerous and wonderful species in the stars.